and konnichiwa. Plus, yobaseo. Will here of the POLIT'AI CHI, talking briefly and concisely about slideshow montage of the video highlights in full coming up. Your presence through watching is honored. Hi. So what are we talking about? Miss Fancy Hat Wilson, representative, running her mouth off. But this episode's more to the point. You know, we got the 5 going on here. You know, he's definitely better replacement for Eric Bolling. Obviously that's permanent. But here, Juan Williams, gonna do the Juan Williams impersonation here, you know, after the reason for the pie rant. The 4 + 1, backing up the general here. The +1, taking the side of Frederica, the femaleized version of Fred. Gotta love KG. She puts him in his place at the end. Again, you will see all the highlights and full come up here. I'm just giving you a brief intro here, vis-a-vis the DMCA, original content, adding to it. No bait and click, rather bait and switch going on here. Gotta love Greg. He's got some funny one-liners, always does. I think I made my point as to all the personalities going on here. I was a little, not so much envious, but annoyed. It's like, I'm Jesse Waters riding in on Bill O'Reilly's coattails. Hey, he's proven his worth. This dude's got to retire. Reason for the poly rant? Roll it.
He knew that he was serving his country and that there was danger involved, but he would have done it again.
Here is the real context. The context is the president had not called any of the families of the 4 men who died in Niger.
True.
So the press corps, when he's out there, says to him, Mr. President, how come you haven't put out a statement or called these folks? Then we learn, oh, there was a statement prepared, but it wasn't released. And now people are curious, why didn't you call? And that's when he says, oh, that Obama, he doesn't call everybody. And people are like, what?
All right. So you saw there how he so rudely cut off the lovely and always regal. Not this gal, and not Greg Gutfeld. He's a pretty funny one-liner kind of guy. In an un-Sam Kinison kind of way. Very quick with the wit of a quip with the wit on his feet, ad-lib. This dude. You know, I tried to give Juan Williams the benefit of the doubt. I've written a couple white papers to that effect in the form of a couple tweet pics, including the one either coming up before or after this vid tweet. But, yeah. Don't be messing with the core just to justify your talking points. Bad move, dude. So I'm just gonna do it. I did a great Dick Morris impersonation. It's on the channel, on the parent channel, the OMSR. To this, the POLIT'AI CHI. There she is, very regal, very rudely interrupted. So here I'm gonna do it. Dog whistles according to Juan Williams. You know, when strikes me, semicolon, what I find so interesting. You know, what I think is so fascinating about all of this, you know, I think that the root cause of all of this, yeah, these are the dog whistles to be like, don't critique what I just said when I led into such a preamble, thus you're attacking me, not critiquing me. You know, Juan Williams would probably be like, I find it so interesting that this guy is strikingly characterizing me as a caricature that I can't necessarily disagree with, but it's above the pale, or beyond the pale. Dude, yeah, I wrote a white paper to this effect. I'm talking to Juan here. Like, I doubt he'll ever see it, but yeah, he could use a little bit of constructive criticism other than when they're on the set. And the whole reason I do this, common centricity hashtag, a little bit of centricity, is because it captures them. I mean, this is going on for a while with him. So it's a moment frozen in time so that you, the viewing audience, can see it. It's like, yeah, I'm not pointing fingers or trying to find fault with the guy. First time I ever heard it. This has been going on since last year, at least a year and a half. All right, you're the audience. Thanks for watching those silly DUIs or easily preventable ones while you're out there. Roll clips.
This is a Fox News Alert 2 major developments following the deaths of 4 U.S. soldiers in Niger. Details on the Pentagon's new investigation into the attack in a moment. But first, Chief of Staff John Kelly issuing an emotional defense at the White House this afternoon following backlash over the president's outreach to Gold Star families. As some of you may know, General Kelly's own son was killed in Afghanistan while serving in the Marines. He rarely speaks about losing a child to war, but today he issued a sobering message to those politicizing the deaths of the brave servicemen who died fighting for their country.
He called 4 people the other day and expressed his condolences in the best way that he could. And he said to me, what do I say? I said to him, sir, there's nothing you can do to lighten the burden on these families. But let me tell you what I tell them. And let me tell you what my best friend, Joe Dunford, told me, because he was my casualty officer. He said, Kel, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do when he was killed. He knew what he was getting into by joining that 1%. He knew what the possibilities were because we're at war. And when he died, in the 4 cases we're talking about, Niger, my son's case in Afghanistan, when he died, he was surrounded by the best men on this earth, his friends. That's what the president tried to say to 4 families the other day. I was stunned when I came to work yesterday morning and brokenhearted at what I saw a member of Congress doing. A member of Congress who listened in on a phone call from the President of the United States to a young wife, and in his way tried to express that opinion that he's a brave man, a fallen hero. He knew what he was getting himself into because he enlisted. There's no reason to enlist. He enlisted. And he was where he wanted to be, exactly where he wanted to be, with exactly the people he wanted to be with when his life was taken. That was the message. That was the message that was transmitted. It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought, at least that was sacred. Life, the dignity of life, was sacred. That's gone. Religion, that seems to be gone as well. Gold Star families, I think that left in the convention over the summer. But I just thought the selfless devotion that brings a man or woman to die on the battlefield, I just thought that that might be sacred. I still hope, as you write your stories, and I appeal to America, that let's not let this maybe lost thing that's held sacred in our society. A young man, young woman going out and giving his or her life for our country. Let's try to somehow keep that sacred. But it eroded a great deal yesterday by the selfish behavior of a member of Congress.
Powerful statement, and indeed a powerful moment that we witnessed there. Something very personal.
Earlier this week, I talked about how commanders-in-chief, they're asked to do things that would crush most of us because they make decisions that put people in harm's way, people who had signed up voluntarily. We don't have a draft here. People join the military because they think it would be a great way to serve their country, a good way to learn and to become leaders like General John Kelly has proven to be. And grief is uniquely personal. So is the consoling part of grief. So if you are in that position and you have to figure out a way that you have the responsibility to reach out in some way, as we've said all week, it could be a letter, it could be a phone call, whatever it is, that is a very private moment. And I wish that none of this had ever happened all week. I think we all know why we are here at this moment. Frederica Wilson, the congresswoman who is at the subject of this issue, she has just told Politico that General Kelly is trying to keep his job. He will say anything. There are other people who heard what I heard. General Kelly doesn't need this job.
No.
He is a public servant, and he deserves a lot of respect from all of us. And what I love about what he did today is just to help us remember that this isn't about commanders-in-chief and who did what and what when. This is about the Gold Star family.
Yeah, brace yourself to hear Juan Williams.
And our focus should be on
I think
them.
this was his swan song.
Absolutely. And Greg, it was a
If not, I
powerful
better do
moment,
something
and
about it.
you felt good that he's in the position he's in.
Well, I'm hoping that his amazing words would end this horrible news cycle because anybody who gets near this story just doesn't look good except for him. I mean, when you take politics and you add it to humans, they become vultures. And now we're trudging out poor families as if they haven't suffered enough. And I mean, he was clearly directing this at Frederica Wilson, and there's no colorful hat is going to hide her shame after that thing. But this thing is snowballed into this ghoulish political theater, in part because of the media, because we have no interest in stopping a snowball. So we just keep adding on. We love picking at the scabs, you know, and this is a scab, and we keep picking at it. And so now that helps. That encourages people to call up these families and make this a story. And there's no longer a no-go zone in the media. We will go anywhere, wherever the story takes us. The controversy is disgusting. No one walks away from this feeling good. And I just wish that maybe the best thing that General Kelly did, which was beautiful what he did, was that he put a period at the end of this sentence. But it sounds like Frederica wants to keep talking.
Well, I think that he probably won't even respond to that. He doesn't need to.
No.
It was classless, and what he did today was right.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, what do you make of this new development that she's now kind of doubled down and now is going after making it a personal attack against General Kelly? I mean, she's the one that really, her behavior is shameful. It
is. I mean, I think America is in good hands with John Kelly as the White House Chief of Staff. People said Kimmel was the conscience of the nation. When I heard Kelly talk today, that's what really he reminded me of. He looked like an adult lecturing children out there. And he's a huge asset. Trump should deploy him much more. Reince Priebus could have never pulled this off. So my hat's off to General Kelly. Now, to be fair and balanced, totally unnecessary for the president the other day to come out and say, well, I make calls some other presidents don't call. You know, those calls are so hard to make. We've seen the president say how hard they are to make. He told me personally how hard they are to make. And it goes back to, I believe, John Kelly told the president that President Obama never called him when his son died in combat in Afghanistan. But I don't want to pick that wound anymore, and I think that's over. I think the president knows that President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama all have a very special bond with the men that serve our country and their families as well, and that it doesn't need to be questioned. But I think President Trump has a need to contrast himself with past presidents of both parties, Republican and Democrat, and almost all the time it serves him very well. And in this case, totally disrespectful, and I doubt her sincerity about defending military families, because her voting record, she's voted against giving widows money for burial rights. She's voted against funding the VA, veterans benefits. She does not have her money where her mouth is. And I think this whole story, like Greg said, needs to stop.
Okay, well, I'm going to get your thoughts and reflections on Kelly's comments and then the latest developments.
Well, it seems to me the news was that General Kelly confirmed what Frederica Wilson had said, which is that Donald Trump said to this grieving widow, this is what your man signed up for. He knew what he was getting into. That is not the most sympathetic, empathetic, caring thing to say to a woman who... let me finish. Come on. Everybody else had a chance to speak.
It's fine.
So he today confirmed that what Frederica Wilson overheard, and it wasn't snooping, guys. She was in a car, the entourage is going ahead with the family in it to the funeral. And she overhears the conversation. The President of the United States, you can imagine everybody in the car gets quiet. The President of the United States is on the phone with the widow. But initially it was said, oh no, he never said that. Oh, okay, well then, you know, Frederica Wilson, maybe it is political. Who knows? But then he suggested, oh, Frederica Wilson better watch herself. And so maybe the thought was, there's a tape. He taped the phone call. No, it turned out he didn't. I don't know. But given what was said today by General Kelly said he used that kind of language in advising the president about what to say.
But she reframed it. She reframed it as callous when it wasn't callous, right?
I don't know if it was callous or not.
But you're saying the commander-in-chief made an insensitive call to a grieving family?
I'm saying
it was like, hey, he got what he deserved, he got what he signed up for. Well, come on, that's crazy.
I don't say that.
Well,
you just did.
It's being politically opportunist.
What he said was something that I think, you know, to the ears of a grieving family is not what you want. It doesn't work for someone who has just lost their loved one.
And it's been said
what
before
we
by
heard
other
was
presidents.
this young man had his wife's name, his children's name tattooed on his chest. He was an upstanding young guy. a real addition to our community. We can be proud of them as Americans.
Can I add something?
And that's just not fair.
You can
Because
only
I've
say that
actually-
if you corrupt the meaning of it. If you corrupt the meaning of what he's saying, then that's true. But you're corrupting it. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that I've actually been there for, not all of them, but I was there for a significant number of meetings that President Bush had with families of the fallen. What's interesting is that often the family members become the consolers to the commander-in-chief. And it is true that, and I've heard